When deciding to see a movie about heists, if you decide not to see Ocean's 11, I'ma slap you. Ocean's 11 came out in 2001, starring George Clooney as Danny Ocean, a man who knows what to do when robbing pretty much anything. In this particular film, he gathers a group of 10 men, him included, making 11 people, to rob 3 Las Vegas casinos at the same time. And they do this when there's a boxing match happening at the same time, because whenever there's a sporting event, that's when the casino has the most money in its vault. In this case, $160 million. Whoo boy! Now, I really, really like Ocean's 11. This is probably the best heist movie that I can think of right off the bat. I'm sure there are others, but it's the one that comes to mind the most. And it really is a good movie, but there's one thing that you gotta keep in mind. There are so many people in this movie that it never really gives you a chance to get introduced to them. Basically, this is an Avengers movie without the prior individual movies leading up to it. These people are kind of flat, there's not much history to them, but they do make up for it because they all play to their own strengths, they all have their own role to play, which in the end, it doesn't really matter that much that they are kind of flat. As far as the motivations go, I guess you can call money a motivator. Money is a motivator for everybody, but at the end of the day, for a heist movie, it's kind of a cop-out. It could have been stronger, it could have been a little bit better, but in the end, that's the only thing that actually makes this movie imperfect. But let's get into it. The people category goes over the acting, characters, casting, importance, and chemistry. One of the main problems this movie has is in the acting stage. I think for the most part, everybody acts the same from beginning to end. You can call them great actors, you can call them bad actors, it doesn't really matter to me. I call them cinematically monotonous because they play it safe for the most part. They're just the same from beginning to end. 2 out of 4 possible stars. Characters-wise, like I said, they aren't deep or meaningful characters, but they are very diverse, they're very colorful, they all play to their own strengths. They are good characters, they're memorable. So for that reason, they get full points. 4 out of 4 possible stars. Now, when it comes down to the casting, I have to ask myself, do all these people feel like they were born to play the roles? Looking back, you kind of think, yeah, they do, because they're in all these movies together. But at the same time, I don't think they got it perfectly, at least not yet. I think a lot of the cast members do feel perfect, and some just kind of feel like some other people could have played their roles. It wasn't 100% great. It was almost there, almost. 3 out of 4 possible stars. As far as the importance goes, we have to independently ask ourselves, do all of these characters do their own thing, or do they kind of blend in together? Like I said before, that's part of the magic of these heist movies, especially with Ocean's 11. They all have their own role to play. Full points, 4 out of 4 possible stars. Chemistry-wise, same thing. I have to ask myself, do all these people work well together? They do. In fact, so much so that I wouldn't even be surprised that after the movie's done, after they're done shooting it and everything, all these people hang out together, they go to clubs, they go to pizza parties. I don't know what actors do. But yeah, they had good chemistry. 4 out of 4 possible stars. All that together would get 17 out of 20 possible stars for the people category, which is 85%. When we're looking at the writing category, we're looking at the dialogue, the balance of the film, the depth of the story, originality, and how interesting it is. Dialogue is very, very important, especially for these heist movies, because you're talking about the plan. The plan itself has to be very smart, and it is. That's one of the greatest things about the series as a whole, that the plan is smart. 2 out of 2 possible stars for dialogue. Balance of the film. Do these people have a central goal that they're trying to meet? Or is it all over the place? Even though they're technically robbing 3 different casinos at the same time, it doesn't matter, because it feels like one concrete goal that everybody is trying to get to. So technically speaking, it's a simple goal. It might be a complex plan, but the goal is to rob these 3 casinos. And of course, that's what it's all about. 2 out of 2 possible stars. Story depth. No, there's nothing deep or meaningful about this movie, and that's not a bad thing. Obviously, it's trying to just be more fun than anything else, and it is fun. But at the end of the day, is that important? No. So 0 out of 2 possible stars for depth. Is it original? I mean, sure, we've seen 1.5 million heist movies, right? We just have. But when thinking about heist movies in general, you're gonna think about these Oceans franchises, especially Oceans 11. And yeah, this might be a remake of a movie done in 1960. Who cares? You're not gonna be thinking about that movie. You're gonna be thinking about this. Originality, absolutely 2 out of 2 possible stars. Interesting. I have to ask myself 2 questions when it comes down to if it's interesting. 1, does it interest me enough to watch it from the beginning? And does my interest ever lack throughout the movie? I was interested enough to see it, and my interest never left me. So absolutely 2 out of 2 possible stars. At the end of the day, we're talking about 8 out of 10 possible stars for the writing category, 80%. The BTS category, behind the scenes, goes over the visuals, cinematography, editing, advertisement, and the music and sound. This entire category got really good scores. The only thing that didn't get full points was the visuals. And I went back and forth with that because there's a couple of things that you might say it does have good visuals with. Production design, obviously they're focusing a lot on these casinos, so that's like a setting where the setting's basically a character, but it's not focused on enough for you to feel like it's a character, so I didn't add that to that. Another thing is the color spectrum. It's a very red and white movie. Obviously, if you've seen the poster, you know what I'm talking about. But I wouldn't say that's necessarily true for the first movie so much as it is for the poster. So visuals was almost there, but not there enough for me to give it full points. So I did give that 1 out of 2 possible stars. Everything else did get full points here. Cinematography, the camera work in this movie, done very well. For the most part, because you're talking about a heist plan to get you really invested in what's going on. So camera shooting back and forth, and everything, which goes into the editing, which also got full points because, again, heist movies are quick acting. It's still important to keep things snappy. Expressions, ideas, and transitions, just a whole bunch of great editing work. So that got full points. Advertising, it was as advertised. This is what you expect to see in a heist movie. And music and sound, I think for the most part, their use of music and sound, if you close your eyes, you picture this movie. And for me, I think that's when music and sound does something right. So this gets full points as well. So we're talking about 90%, 9 out of 10 possible stars for the BTS category. All right, so the narrative arc category, we're talking about the introduction, the inciting incident, obstacles, climax, and resolution, falling action, whatever you want to call it. Everything here is pretty darn good. Not perfect, because when it comes down to the inciting incident, I look for 2 things. I look for an actual incident and a crossing of the threshold moment. The crossing of the threshold moment, of course, is when the characters cross a certain point and they just can't go back. In this case, there's no real inciting incident as much as there is a crossing of the threshold moment. And that's when all these people agree to work with Danny Ocean. Danny Ocean has this plan from the very beginning of the movie, and there's no real inciting incident. There's nothing that makes him think, this is what I'm going to do. He just does it. So it does have a crossing of the threshold moment. So that's 1 out of 2 possible stars. Everything else in this category gets full points. The introduction gets you really acquainted with all these different characters, even if they don't have much of a history. It does get you acquainted with who they are. The obstacles, obviously, they're trying to rob these arcades, and there's a bunch of things in their way that stops them from doing it right away. So, yes, 2 out of 2 for that. A climax, it does have a culmination of everything before it. It's kind of a surprise, actually. So that gets full points. And calming down, returning to a new sense of norm for the following action, absolutely. So everything gets full points here, but the inciting incident. So that makes 9 out of 10 possible stars, 90%. The entertainment category goes over how rewatchable it is, how much of a good time you have while watching, your impulse to buy or own it, your impulse to talk about it or recommend it, and if it's engaging or riveting. Is it rewatchable? Absolutely. I've seen it, I don't even know how many times. So in general, yes, I would seek it out to rewatch it, because that's what I just did. 2 out of 2 possible stars. How much of a good time do you have while watching it? You have a whole heck of a lot of fun. Even though it's not a deep or meaningful story, it's just a lot of fun. So yeah, you're going to have a great time while watching this. 2 out of 2 possible stars. Impulse to buy it or own it. I think for the most part, I wouldn't mind owning this. Yes, I would have it on a wish list. I don't think I would buy it at full price. But add it to my collection? Absolutely. So 1 out of 2 possible stars for that. Impulse to talk about or recommend? Probably not so much. I don't think there's much of a discussion-worthy element to it since it's been out forever. Everybody knows about it. You don't need to recommend it to anybody because most people have seen it. So I'm going to say 0 out of 2 possible stars for this. As for being engaging or riveting, absolutely. When I think about engaging or riveting, the thing that I think about the most is, can you pause it, or does it feel like you're going to miss something important or exciting or something? You can't pause it. There's a lot going on. So this gets full points, 2 out of 2 possible stars. The entertainment category gets 7 out of 10 possible stars, 70%. Now for the specialty category. What do you expect to see the first time you see this movie? Now that Ocean's 8 is out, you kind of have this idea that this franchise is a big thing. So when it comes down to the franchise of Ocean Heist, that's what I call it. You can't watch any Ocean's movie and be like, oh yeah, that's an Ocean's movie, and understand what that means without seeing this one first. This is where it all started. So 10 out of 10 possible stars for franchise. As a heist movie, again, you can't talk about heist movies without talking about Ocean's 11. This may not be the first heist movie in the world, but it's one of the best by far. So 10 out of 10 possible stars for heist movie. Now, usually I look at actor-specific questions when looking at one actor. But there's so many great actors in this that I'm just going to generalize it. As an actor-specific movie, how does George Clooney feel? How does Matt Damon feel? How does Brad Pitt feel? How does all of these different people feel? You know what? This is like their movie, right? When I think of these actors, I often think about the Ocean's franchise because they might not be super colorful characters, but they are colorful characters in their own regards, and they fit well together. They're like just one multiple-headed monster, and it works so well. Actor-specific gets full points, 10 out of 10 possible stars. Is it halfway decent? Did they make the movie that they intended to make from the get-go? I don't think there's any question. Of course they did. This is a movie that is a whole heck of a lot of fun, and I think that's what they wanted to make. So, absolutely 100%, 10 out of 10 possible stars. That means the specialty category gets a whole whopping 40 out of 40 possible stars, 100%. Whew. If we add up all these points together, we get 90 out of 100 possible stars. 90%. That's a great score. Like I said, it almost got 100%. It's got some faulty things here and there that it could have gotten better, but very minimal. Still a very, very good movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Okay, guys, for YouTube, you can subscribe to me and hit that bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. Hit that like button. Comment. Tell me what you thought of the Ocean's movies, or Ocean's 11, whatever, down below. And I will see you in my next review. Peace out!